can see. Maybe nobody knows. See, the it keeps changing.
Mr. Mills?
Hi, Steve.
Morning.
Morning, Steve.
Good morning. Oh.
How you feeling?
Good day so far.
Good.
Wonderful.
Yep, feel good.
Doesn't it? It's fine for me, but I can't eat it. See it there, but not in the others.
Morning, Dale. Where are you?
San Diego.
Looks nice. Business or pleasure or vacation? What do you?
Grandson graduated.
Great. It's always nice to have friends who live in exotic places and you can go visit. Unfortunately, some of my best friends live in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia and the west side of Indianapolis. Not real hot spots.
Well, hot spots maybe, but not
There.
in some ways.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to be able to hear them, but I don't want
Hi, Dave.
Morning.
Morning, Dave.
Hi, everybody.
to. Good morning.
Good morning.
I learned something yesterday from Norma about you, Dave. I didn't realize that people called you Danny, since your dad was Dave.
Well, that wasn't the reason, though.
Oh, okay.
I was named David Crawford Mills, and back in the Navy days, just prior to WW2, there was a couple, an older couple, who lived in Pasadena, California, who kind of adopted Dave and Lowell, and his name was Dan Crawford. So I was nicknamed Danny and middle name Crawford.
Okay.
It sort of changed when I went to college because for 16, 18 years, everybody said, how'd you get Dave? Where'd Danny come from? What is your name? And I see it's still confusing.
Well, I've always gone by my middle name, except for one short period. I hated my name when there weren't any Brents that I knew. So when we moved to a new neighborhood when I was 10, I decided I was going to go by John, which is my dad's name. And so I introduced myself to all the neighborhood kids as John and everything. And they seemed to like me, but none of them ever called to see if I come out and play or anything. And finally, I asked one of them, Mike Rader, who lived across the street, I go, how come you guys never call me or come, see? He said, we call all the time or knock on the door and ask if John can come out and play. And your mom says he can't, he's at work. Because Dad would go play ball and stuff with him when he was home. And it said, because we thought it was weird, maybe it was some Quaker thing that all the little kids had to work, and stuff. So I just gave up and went back to Brett after about 3 months. That's too funny.
Yeah, that's a much better story than mine.
I don't know that it's any better, but
Of course, you know, I grew up as Norma Barnett. And when I went to college, sat in this one class, and the person sitting next to me, every time this guy would come into the classroom and I'd be in my seat, he'd say, "Oh, there's Norma, darn it. Oh, I mean Barnett."
I go by my middle name. My middle name is Sue,
Okay.
only because I like it.
Yeah.
I think Dad and Lowell and Bob always referred, or not always, but often referred to grandfather Barnett, my mother's Barnett, as Dad Burnett.
families and their nicknames.
Yep.
My sister, my dad always gave kids nicknames, and I always did too. And my sister Kathleen was determined she would come up with a name for her daughter that I couldn't nickname. And so she came up with the name of Whitney, which that was so easy to call her Witless, you know. Yeah, she was not amused, so.
This is, remember this person.
Mhm. Well, I always said that I knew how you knew me by what you called me, because I had a lot of nicknames.
And my dad's nickname growing up was actually, he had two. His mother always called him Jack. And so did his dad. But he also went by the nickname Red because he had kind of auburn hair. Years later, I was at a Ohio yearly meeting. It wasn't called that any longer. It was Evangelical Friends Church, Eastern Region. I was a young adult at that time. And this woman came because it was part of the recording tour for Western Indiana and Wilmington. And I was being recorded in Indiana. We had to visit back then different yearly meetings. So we visited Ohio Conservative and Ohio Valley, and then we went to Eastern Region. And a woman came up to me and afterwards, and she said, "You're Fred Bill's son." And I thought, no, I don't even know a Fred Bill. And then as she talked a little bit further, I realized she had a slight lisp and she couldn't say Red. She was trying to say Red and say Fred. And I said, "Oh yeah, John Bill." And she goes, "Yeah, Fred Bill." Yeah, we always called him Fred when we were little. I go, "Yeah, uh-huh." I said, "Well, we call him Gray now."
My first name is Glenda, but so many people tried to shorten it to Glenn. And that's, I have an uncle named Glenn. I was like, no, not it.
Yeah, but Glenda was a good witch. I love Glenda. Yeah. She was a good witch in Wizard of Oz.
That's true. She was a good witch.
Well, Norma's got a prelude for us.
Morning, Jonathan.
Sylvia.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm here for a short time, but as long as I can stay. Because Dan's got to teach his Sunday school class this morning.
This be the last
And we have 4 grandchildren with us.
one.
Oh,
Thank you, Norma. By way of announcements, we will have Sunday school at 10:35. We're finally looking at Priscilla for all those who can join us. Steve, I was wondering if you'd give an update on your report from Berkshire Hathaway, what you found out.
I talked to the agent that I know and asked him about getting a valuation on the church property. And he gave me the names of a couple firms. Both of them are about 4 weeks or so out from being able to do that. So whenever I hear anything, I'll let you know.
Thanks. Are there any other announcements? What about joys and concerns this morning? Things that are on your heart?
Was a joy yesterday to see so many people congratulating Emma. We had her family had a gathering for her graduation from Monrovia High School celebration. And it was just a good time to be able to celebrate with her and have some good food and visit with friends.
Well, the latest in the Peary family saga is that, as most of you know, you got the email I sent out this week, I think. My 6-year-old great niece has now been diagnosed with the same kind of leukemia that Steve has. She is a patient at Riley Hospital and is in for probably 6 to 9 months of treatment, most of which will be inpatient. There are lots more details, but that's enough at this point. Just remember her and her mom and dad and her older sister and older brother in your prayers.
So much joy and sorrow mingled together in our lives. Let's lift them all to God as we center into silence and listen for the voice of God and the Spirit speaking in our lives. Chip's our worship leader this morning, so he'll lead out of the silence as he feels led.
Today, I'd like to talk about miracles. What are they and how do we know a miracle is truly a miracle and not just something that would happen anyway? A definition of a miracle from the dictionary. Miracles are extraordinary occurrences that can only be attributed to a supernatural work of God. Okay, but which God? People all over the world pray to different gods and different deities. Do they all perform miracles? Now, the Bible definition of a miracle would be something like this: an event that involves a direct and powerful action of God, transcending ordinary laws of nature and defying common expectations of behavior. Now, like I have said before, all I know about the Bible I have learned from movies. And yes, God did perform a lot of miracles in those movies. I saw John Huston as Noah build an ark with the help of his 3 sons and the rest of the family. And then John blew his horn and all the animals came and they and his family were saved from the flood. I saw Charlton Heston as Moses stretch out his arm and part the Red Sea so the Hebrews could escape from Yul Brynner and the Egyptians. Then I saw an angel warn Stuart Granger to get out of Dodge before the city blew up in Sodom and Gomorrah. And let's not forget how Victor Mature brought the house down in Samson and Delilah. But I'm not going to talk about miracles that big. I want to tell you about little miracles. And if they are truly miracles, are they something that would have just happened anyway? There are all kinds of miracles shown in non-biblical movies as well, like The Miracle Worker, The Miracle in the Rain, Miracle on 34th Street. Now that one really had me believing in Santa. Lassie Come Home and Courage of Lassie both made me cry as Lassie finds her way back to Elizabeth Taylor, defying unbelievable odds. They even sing about miracles in Broadway and in movie musicals. But are they really miracles? What is a miracle? The dictionary says it's a noun, a surprising and welcome event that is not explainable by nature or scientific laws, and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. One of my favorite musicals is Flower Drum Song, a musical by the team of Rodgers and Hammerstein. It is based on the 1975 novel Flower Drum Song by Chinese-American author C.Y. Lee. It premiered on Broadway in 1958 and then was adapted for a 1961 film. The beginning of the musical, a father and daughter from China try to make a little money by performing flower drum songs. The daughter starts, "My father say that children keep growing, rivers keep flowing too. My father say he doesn't know why, but somehow or other they do. Somehow or other they do. 100 million miracles are happening every day, and those who say they don't agree are those who do not hear or see." As many of you know, I made a deal with God. He would sit on my sofa and I would ask him for help and tell him my concerns, and he would send me movies that I could do a message about. Simple little plan, and it seems to be working for me. Now, trying to explain this to other people is a problem. So in most cases, God just puts his hand over my mouth and I don't talk about it. Brent and Nancy and I were out at lunch the other day, and I was telling them I looked over to where God sits on my sofa and I started to talk to him, and then I looked up and saw Santa looking back at me. You see, I was sorting through holiday decorations, and on the spot I assigned to God, I had put Christmas decorations, and on top of them was a rather large Santa looking right at me. Needless to say, I just couldn't go on and started to laugh. But afterwards, when I was trying to explain to a friend how I talked to God in my living room, I said, you know, they talk to God, it's like Santa. We tell children when they notice several Santas in town, well, they're not the real Santa. They just step in for him and give the message to the real Santa. They're there to help him out. So maybe who I'm talking to is just there to help out, kind of a Santa helper for God. My friend didn't get it at all and came back with, so God sends you movies to watch and improve your life, or give you an idea of what to talk about in your next message, but he can't stop wars. I used to pray for a peaceful world where there is no hunger or suffering. I prayed for sick people. I prayed that sick people wouldn't die and offered others in their place. It didn't work. Then it hit me. I needed to start off small and work my way up to peace on earth and goodwill towards men. I have been working on this really hard for the past month, asking God for help. You see, 2 months ago Monday, my friend Troy, that lives next door, called me and said to send him to stand by as he might need to go to the ER. He had a temperature and was in a lot of pain. I said I had 2 reports to give to Civic Council, but I would call Pat Andrews and give her the information and would stay home in case he needed to be taken to the hospital. I called Pat, gave her my information, and she said to get Troy out of bed and get him to the hospital right now. After all, she said, I am a doctor. Now, Dr. Andrews is a doctor, all right, but not a medical doctor. Anyway, when Pat tells me to do something, I do it, and off we went to the ER. We were there from 4 till almost 10 p.m. Troy had 2 CAT scans, and they found a spot in his liver. Troy was given something for pain, and we went home. The next day, Troy called his family doctor, and she scheduled an MRI. It was for Sunday afternoon. So after meeting, Troy and I went to the hospital. Now, as we were on our way there, Troy is telling me that the laxative he had taken that morning did not work. It was to work in 30 minutes, and it did not. So he took a second dose, and that didn't work either. Now, you know where I'm going with this. We got to the hospital and I got Troy in a wheelchair as it was hard for him to walk. I pushed him to where he needed to go and got him checked in. And then I heard, "Where's the bathroom?" Quickly, I got him there just in time as the laxatives had kicked in. He was in there for a long time. He came out and we headed to where they were going to do the MRI, just in time for another, "Where's the bathroom?" After quite a while, Troy comes out and is able to change into his hospital gown and made a comment about me being Baby Jane. Then he was off again. The intern wanted to know about the Baby Jane thing. I explained that when Troy broke his knee, I had to push him around in a wheelchair, and he was always making reference to me being Jane and him being Blanche. I saw the blank look on her face and said that it all had to do with the movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And starred Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. She said she remembered the movie. Well, about that time, Troy comes out with his hospital gown off one shoulder and the back stuck in the back part of his Depends. He wore those just in case. And I said, "Joan, darling, you look divine." The intern was laughing so hard, I thought she would fall on the floor. No sooner than he appeared than he was gone back into the bathroom. I was then told if he should have an accident on the table, that it would all have to be rescheduled. Troy was back out and all this was explained to him. He said he thought he could make it now. The intern pushed him away and I began to pray, "Please God, don't let Troy have an accident on the table." Over and over, that was my mantra. And finally he came out and it was done. Troy got dressed, made another trip to the bathroom, and we were on our way. Thank you, God. I knew it was a miracle. The MRI was over with. Now, in hindsight, I should have prayed for we got home with no accidents, but that's another story. Our next trip to the hospital was for a colonoscopy. Now, I knew there would be no accidents on this trip, so I just prayed that all would go well, and it did, well, almost. They found Troy had an ulcer on his colon. He was prescribed morphine for pain. We went to the pharmacy to pick up the prescription and was told they didn't have enough morphine to fill it. I said, "Then fill what you can." I was told this by this hateful woman, they couldn't do that. Now, I don't remember this, but Troy said I turned into Shirley MacLaine from Terms of Endearment and banged on the counter and said, "Do something. My friend is in a lot of pain." We were asked to leave and told to come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. and the prescription would be filled. When I came home, I looked over to the sofa and thanked God to help me and help Troy get the meds. I was there at 11 a.m. I was told their truck didn't come in, but they had the needed amount of morphine at another location not far from me. The pharmacy couldn't just request it, but the doctor had to call in a new prescription at the other location. Troy was in the car and called the doctor and left a message as to what she needed to do. An hour later, I called the new location to see if I could pick up the meds, and the line was busy. Every time I called, the line was busy. I finally drove there and found that the doctor had not called in the prescription. And so at 2 p.m., we headed for the ER. My prayer was that Troy gets some kind of pain meds. Now, what this trip to the ER all boiled down to was that I took him there so that someone at the ER could call the doctor, only to find out that she'd never given the message about the new prescription. Troy was given some pain meds by the ER doctor, and later I was able to pick up the new prescription. Next time was to get Troy a biopsy on his liver. On the way there, I told Troy I hope his autopsy went well. He gave me a strange look and said, I'm going for a biopsy, not an autopsy. Of course, my prayer was, please, no cancer. It all went well and there was no cancer. Prayer answered. So as it stands for now, Troy has no cancer, but does have an ulcer in his colon and blood in his stool that gives him much pain, and his temperature goes from 93 to 101 up and down all the time. He is on morphine and extra strength Tylenol and was told he could not go to see a doctor till the end of September. I go to the sofa and ask God, could you get him in any sooner? And then it was answered. He was going to see a specialist in August. I am still talking to God, who is on my sofa, and doing my little prayers, as I really think they are miracles, or at least they are to me. Now it's interesting that 2 days ago, my friend Chantel sent me a message and attached part of a blog that she had read and thought I would find it interesting. It was written by a Quaker named Nat Case. I have the link would be happy to share with any friends who are interested. Chantel wrote, here is something from a man attending a Quaker meeting with much more questions than answers. I'm going to paste a part of it for you. And this is what she sent. Again, this is from a blog by Nat Case. Maybe we need to start small, rebuilding gods that we can talk to and who can talk back, or just one whom we can possibly imagine. Our invisible friend, maybe part of our problem is that we don't actually want to talk to a voice of everything because everything has gotten unfathomably huge. George Fox, the founder of Quakerism, didn't have to think about light years, let alone billions of light years. The stars now are too far away to be our friends and speak to us in a time of need. Maybe we could talk to a God whom we imagine in our house. Maybe we could ask what is wanted and hear what is needed. Maybe that God would tell us not to tramp over the earth and enemies, pretending we are bigger than they are, and that dying is okay because it's just something that happens when your life is over. Maybe we could ask for help and comfort from unexpected places, and often enough receive it and be thankful for it. Maybe we need to name the little God something other than God, because maybe our God has a boss who has a boss whose boss runs the universe. Maybe we name this God Ethel or Larry or Murgatroyd. As we go into our quiet time, I would like for friends to think about the miracles that are happening to us every day. And we really need some miracles as our country is so divided. But let's start off small. May the light of God surround you. May the love of God enfold you. May the power of God protect you. And may the presence of God watch over you. For wherever you are, God is.
thinking of small miracles. We all always do seem to pray for the really big ones. I grew up in an all-Catholic neighborhood, and the patron saint of lost things was Saint Anthony. And there was a prayer, supposed to pray the Saint Anthony prayer if you lost something 3 times and you would find it. And I was telling a friend of mine that a few years ago, and she said, yeah, we had the shortened version. The full prayer was, Tony, Tony, look around, something's lost that must be found. Because that's what we prayed as kids. And she goes, it works sometimes it doesn't, but it works sometimes. I laughed, and about a week later, I was out driving the tractor bush hogging around the trails. And there was a particularly low-hanging branch, thorn tree branch, and I went under it. It snagged my cap and my glasses and pulled them off. They went up in the air. So I stopped and I'm looking all over. I found the cap, never found the glasses. And I thought, well, I'm not that blind. I'll just keep driving. I'm not going to get my good glasses. So I was driving on, but you know, it was hard to see the mowing lines. My vision's not that good. So as I was approaching the same place, I did the little St. Anthony prayer as a joke with God. I thought, Tony, Tony, look around. Something's lost that must be found. Did it 3 times. Stopped under where I lost the glasses. Looked around. No, they weren't there. And I thought, that's fine. And started the tractor up again, and the roll protection bar hit the branch, and the glasses fell into my lap. And I just smiled, because there are thousands of miracles all around my life every day that I never acknowledge. And stopping for that silly little prayer reminded me that sometimes I bother God with the big stuff and never the little stuff, and I might just be surprised. I might just, if I take time for a miracle. We'll now continue on with more unprogrammed worship. All are welcome to stay. We know some must leave, so blessings on you, and let's continue in worship.
Thank you, Norma.
If all hearts are clear, we'll end meeting for worship.
Thank you, Chip. You always have interesting things to say to make me think. That's good.
Thank you, Tip.
You're welcome. Now I want to see you float off in a little bubble.
Like Glenda the Good Witch. Well, take care, everyone. Hope to see you next Sunday. We'll have Sunday school in about 15 minutes for anyone who's interested. Priscilla is our topic today. So from Acts 18. So take care.
Amanda, Jonathan, have a good one.
Bye, take care.